So I want to talk a little bit about COVID and the Biden administration's refusal to handle it. Do you guys remember during the election how Joe Biden was constantly tweeting? I remember the figure at the time was 220,000 deaths. And Biden kept tweeting about how that was just entirely unacceptable. And he was right, that Trump had mishandled all this kind of stuff. And Biden was tweeting endlessly about it and saying, you need to elect someone who will handle this pandemic and Trump will not. Well, where are we at now? Joe Biden's been in office for a year, almost. Where are we at now? He's refused to go forward with the Trips Waiver. He's revoked stimulus checks after he gave out less than he promised at the beginning, as though we cannot tell the difference between $1,200 and $2,000. Patently insulting. What else has he done? I mean, really, what else has he done? He's tried to force us all back to work and school. He's refused to engage in any strategy that is not centered around the vaccines. And again, you guys, I encourage everybody to get vaccinated. I had COVID this last week. And I am vaccinated and boosted, and I did not have very bad symptoms. I encourage you to get vaccinated so that if you happen to catch this very contagious variant called Omicron, you don't end up in the damn hospital. Okay. I encourage people to take any strategy that can help to mitigate the spread of this horrible disease. But Biden doesn't seem to. He seems to just want to tell people to get vaccinated and get back to normal. Well, why might that be? Who wants that plan? Big business and big pharma want that plan, right? Let's sacrifice human lives for the largest benefactors of our current economic setup. Right? Let's get kids back to school, not because it's safe or reasonable or healthy to do so. Let's get kids back to school so their parents can get back to work. You all know that's what it's about, right? I'm going to show you guys an article here in a minute that we got the media going full on trying to convince everybody that we need to get back to the office, right? All these fucking CEOs telling you got to get back to work. This is the path we've chosen. We have chosen the rapacious incentives of big pharma and big business over human lives. We refuse to go forward with the Trips Waiver to vaccinate the world, which allows it makes it significantly more likely that variants like Omicron and other potentially dangerous and especially contagious variants can develop. We have refused to take any strong action on this at all. And when you compare that to Biden's messaging during the campaign, it's quite stark. It's egregious. So where do we sit now? We're well over what are we? 800,000 deaths. So how many of those have happened under Biden? Right? You remember when he was tweeting that the amount of deaths Trump had overseen means that Trump should resign? Should Biden resign? Sure looks like it, because he's done fuck all about dealing with this. Right? He's got his press secretary up there laughing about the concept of giving out free tests. You guys know, in impoverished country, there are impoverished countries around the world who are finding no issue with providing tests and masks and other strategies to their citizens. Did Biden come in and say, let's pay people to stay home so we can actually nip this thing in the bud and go for an elimination strategy? No, of course he didn't. Of course he didn't. Because he's prioritizing big business and prioritizing big pharma. Okay? And that's just egregious. And by the way, you guys, the callousness with which I've heard people all across the political spectrum discuss this. Well, it's only people with comorbidities who are dying from this stuff. Oh, so fuck them, right? We shouldn't form our public policy around helping the little guy, right? Fuck them. Fuck your elderly grandparent. They can go die so that we can get back to normal. The callousness with which I have heard people discuss this is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. We on the left are supposed to stand up for the downtrodden, to stand up for the little guy, the person left behind, the person who most needs public policy. And what have we done instead? We've basically said, throw them to the wolves so we can get back to work. It's outrageous, you guys. It's beyond outrageous. Joe Biden should resign. This is a scandal. His refusal to deal with this is it's hard to even describe the extent to which he has fucked this up every which way to Sunday. And the Democrats messaging on it too now. I mean, I'll show you guys a tweet here. I'm sure a number of you guys saw this. They tweeted, huge news. Unemployment fell to 3.9% at the end of 2021. It's the biggest single year drop in unemployment on record. I tweeted this out and I said, they kicked everyone off UI and now they're boasting about it. That is what happened, okay? They kicked everyone off unemployment insurance and now they're bragging about it. Is that how you're going to win the midterm, you absolute morons? The other thing about this, by the way, they're using, it's this very hilarious dynamic. The unemployment statistics that are used by any given group, if you're in power, you manipulate and water down the unemployment numbers. You don't include the underemployed. You don't include people who are, quote, not seeking work because there's no work for them to seek. So you give the lowest possible number, while your opponent gives a more comprehensive and complete number and says, look how bad they're doing. And then when Democrats inevitably lose Congress in 2022 and inevitably lose to Donald Trump or whatever Republican runs in 2024, the Democrats will go back to using the comprehensive set of numbers to criticize Republicans, and Republicans will start using the watered down numbers to say, look how good it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. It's also quite sad because the fact that they continue to engage in it means that on some level it works, right? But it's just this, it defines political messaging because it's not actually about truth or reality. It's about propaganda and manipulating the viewer into taking your side on a micro issue, right? So I also wanted to show you guys here a clip. This is all, I have a handful of things here that are kind of related to COVID in one fashion or another. This clip is actually an advertisement for Big Pharma and how they're attempting to message their desire to have it both ways. By that, I mean, let's take a whole bunch of public funding for research and development and then monopolize the profits on our life-saving vaccines and medications, right? The greedy incentive structure on which they operate and on which are powerful, our parties allow them to continue to operate and have for decades is outrageous. So this is a short ad here from Big Pharma. Apologies to make you all watch this.
Vaccines and antivirals are helping fight the pandemic because scientists and researchers in America's biopharmaceutical industry acted fast after investing billions over years to achieve breakthroughs. But now, Congress is threatening legislation that will devastate private industry's ability to fund treatments just like these. What's at stake isn't corporate profits, it's public preparedness. Tell Congress to oppose legislation that would harm our ability to fight pandemics. Paid for by Coalition to Protect Access.
Unfucking believable. This from the same people who oppose the Trips Waiver. This from the same people who say, no, let's not vaccinate the world. Let's make sure that Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson can rake in their profits, excuse me. Unbelievable. And by the way, they even explicitly said, this is not about corporate profits. That is exactly what it's about. Exactly what it is about. If you demanded that these companies